Welcome to Shooting the Ish. All right, everybody. Hello.
Hello out there.
Hey, Brian, how's it going?
Yeah, Brian, how are you?
Where is he?
Oh no, those home invaders again.
He's out. Where do you think he could be?
Comic book convention?
Comic book convention. I heard he was on Maury finding out if he was the father or not.
He could be at a Popeyes.
Oh, God.
Possibly.
Starting the show classy, aren't we?
Possibly a KFC.
Terrible.
I like Long John Silver myself. But
it's probably a Peter Luger for all you know.
I like Peter Luger, that's the best one, but it's not even in the same conversation as a Popeyes. It's not even in the same language as a Popeyes.
Hey, what do you like better, Popeyes or KFC?
I don't eat either, but I would have to choose Popeyes.
I would choose Popeyes too.
Yeah. Whoever's eaten it has liked it.
I think whoever ate it is dead now, but it's still very good.
Popeyes? I don't know. Even though it is as greasy as KFC, it doesn't feel like you're eating poison, if that makes any sense. KFC feels like you're eating straight poison.
Do you like LA's Roscoe's Chicken and Waffles or Popeyes better?
I would have to choose Roscoe's by default.
So.
Yeah, I mean, you have to. It's a restaurant, even though it is fast food in itself, basically. But you would have to choose Roscoe's.
All right, so Brian's out. We'll talk to him. We'll talk to him a little down the road. So it's me and George here on Shooting the Ish. Welcome everybody. Thanks for tuning in. Let's jump right into it. We saw The World's End.
Yeah.
What'd you think of that?
I saw it twice, actually.
Saw it twice? You must have liked it.
I loved it. No, it was really good. It was really good. It was very entertaining. I'm a big Simon Pegg fan, and what they're doing, and with the trilogy, I'd say, even though I didn't like Hot Fuzz that much, it was kind of bland. Shaun of the Dead was great, and then it was followed up with Hot Fuzz, which was and then World's End, which was closer to Shaun of the Dead. Not as good, but it was closer. It was in the same vein. It was good.
Yeah, it definitely seems to be Shaun of the Dead, World's End, and then Hot Fuzz at the bottom of that one.
Yeah.
I think they did a lot of very creative, sci-fi throwbacks and stuff like that, and I guess that's what made Shaun of the Dead so likable, is that it was like a bit of a fantasy world with the zombies running around. So they brought that back with these alien robot sort of creatures.
Yeah, even though zombies are just much funner than robots, it was still really good.
Yeah, a lot of good fighting and action scenes. It was just fun, like 1 minute might be full of jokes, a lot of British humor, stuff like that, and then the next minute has fighting action. Then there's like a little romance scene, so it ran the gamut in terms of entertainment.
How'd you like the fighting scenes?
It was good. It was very wrestling influenced. There was 2 instances of the rock bottom.
Yeah, that was really good. The fighting scenes I thought were fantastic.
They had all those creative cuts and shots like from Shaun of the Dead.
Yeah, it was really good. I think it was fun. It was fast paced. It was well shot. The choreography was great all around. There were multiple fight scenes. The first one I thought was very cool, and then it starts to get a little bit. It's pretty ridiculous from jump. But it was good. I really liked the fight scenes a lot. I mean, because we're also former wrestling fans, at least I am, so there was a lot of wrestling vein in there with like different moves and whatnot.
Yeah, Simon Pegg too played a good. What would you call his character?
The main character?
A derelict, a waste.
Yeah, he was a lovable loser.
Lovable loser.
And like in all of his movies.
I know, all his movies are like, I'm 40 and it's time to turn my life around, and that's what happens sometimes with people. They don't exist properly in regular society, but when the shit hits the fan, when it's time for something to go down, they're the one who'll save your life.
Yeah. One of my favorite parts of it is the actor Eddie Marsan. He's also in Ray Donovan. He was the guy that had the problem with the bully, and then he beat up the bully robot.
That guy was great.
Yeah, he's one of my favorite actors. He's just unbelievable. I didn't realize how much stuff he's actually been in until I watched him on Ray Donovan. Now I saw him in this. Like he was in Sherlock Holmes. He's been in a bunch of stuff.
Yeah, what they did very well is having a big cast that's full of mostly older actors, but you didn't feel like you were watching an old person's movie.
I know, because they were just as dumb as we are.
Yeah, it showed that. It didn't. And I think it grossed accordingly. I think people went to see it for all the right reasons, for the fact that it was entertaining and there was a lot of intense scenes. The effects were pretty good. There wasn't anything where you were like, oh, that's CGI or anything like that.
Yeah, I had no idea that guy Eddie Marsan. I'm recently a fan of his, but I've known of him for a long time. He's been in Hancock. He was in Miami Vice, The Illusionist, Mission Impossible 3, The New World, V for Vendetta. Wow, I had no idea. I didn't even realize all that. He's so good that his acting is so subtle that it's fantastic.
Right. Yeah. A lot of those British actors are good at that. And Simon Pegg, man, he's got such a range.
Mhm. He really does. He showed it in this one, from goofy to sad to angry. It was really all over. Yeah, it was really good. It was really, really good.
They also had who else? What's the name of Simon Pegg's buddy that's in all those movies?
Oh yeah. I always forget. I'm gonna check it out right now. Nick Frost?
Yeah, that's it. Nick Frost. He's good too. Thinking about all the different movies they've even done together, he always has a pretty different character. Like in this one, he was a bit a guy who had turned his life around and was a little bit uptight, and then in Shaun of the Dead, he played the complete drug dealer, pot buddy.
Well, in this one, he was reluctant to join them because basically the premise is a group of 5 buddies go back to their old town where they grew up, and they want to do like a bar crawl, like an epic, crazy, legendary bar crawl that consists of 12 different pubs all in this town. So Nick Frost's character is sober at this point because apparently he was in an accident when he was younger because they were all drinking buddies and whatnot. So he's been sober for a long time. And Simon Pegg's character dupes him into joining because he lied to him and said that his mom died. So Nick Frost's character felt bad and joined in. So at first he wasn't drinking and he was catching shit from Simon Pegg's character. But then once shit started going down with the robots and he had sat down and he just drank the 5 shots in a row that Simon Pegg brought to the table, I loved it.
Right. Do you think that this was a drinking glorification movie, or do you think that this movie would have been better if you were drunk watching it? Like, is this sort of like a pot movie but for alcoholics?
I don't think so. I don't think it would have made it any better.
I mean, the whole premise had drinking and running from pub to pub. Although they were chastising Simon Pegg for doing so the whole time. It certainly had the feel of, sort of like a smart beer movie. Yeah.
Yeah, I agree with you. But I don't think it would make... I mean, when you're high, as far as marijuana is concerned, you always get sucked into whatever you're watching more so. So I don't know if it makes it better, but you are more engaged.
Right.
But it was good.
They also had Rosamund Pike as basically the female actress of the movie. And I was hoping, since Jack Reacher, I was hoping to see her in another tight, revealing shirt, but they had her dressed in a sweater and a petticoat the whole movie.
Yeah, I didn't find her attractive in this one. I didn't even know it was the same actress until you told me.
I had always seen her in very conservative roles, and even though she was in Jack Reacher, when she, I saw a different side of her, let's say that.
Yeah.
That's just me being a guy.
Jack Reacher, that was an interesting movie as well. Decent action.
Yeah, it was like a fun B movie.
Yeah. I think that's what everyone should start making. Just fun B movies. Forget about these big, crappy
Yeah.
money losing blockbusters.
Hey, speaking of fun speaking of something that feels like a blockbuster mixed with a fun B movie, did you see the trailer for the thing with Sylvester Stallone and Arnold Schwarzenegger?
Yeah, that looks crappy.
Escape Plan?
I saw it a while back, so I haven't seen it recently, to be honest with you. But when when I watched it, it was. I love Arnold and I love Stallone, but they're both old.
They are old, but that's what kind of makes it funny. Like, it was weird in the theater when I was watching it. Everyone was chuckling at it.
Uh-huh.
But in a way, I could tell that all those people, like, at least half of those people were going to go see it.
Yeah, we grew up with Arnold and Sylvester Stallone making a great movie, and then 5 shitty ones, and then a great movie, and then 7 shitty ones.
And then every time they made a good one, I was like, oh, they still got it?
Yeah.
Yeah, but look how diesel he is.
Well, growth hormone, that's what I'm saying. Like, I'm going to wait till I'm older to start working out, then I'm going to start taking growth hormone so I can look like Sylvester Stallone, you know?
Well, we're not that young anymore. What time are you going to wait?
You're right. I should start now.
Yeah, go right now and get some growth hormone from
excuse me.
Brock Lesnar.
Have to make some calls.
Yeah. But yeah, World's End was good. I mean, obviously, if you're expecting something new from this crew, you're not going to get it in the fact that this was like watching the same movie for the third time. But with that being said, they're very entertaining. In terms of, had you never seen Shaun of the Dead, had you never seen Hot Fuzz and just took this for what it was a well done, fun movie.
Yeah. Well, it was released by Focus Features, who has a excellent history of great movies. Like right now, they have 33 projects in development.
Mm-hmm.
Right now that's out as well. Closed Circuit was released by them. World's End was released by them. Just recently, Anna Karenina, A Place Beyond the Pines.
Okay.
Hyde Park on the Hudson. Countless movies that are just great movies. I mean, Hyde Park on the Hudson, I heard not fantastic things about, so I don't want to say that it was great. Tinker Tailor Soldier Spy.
Yeah.
Was good. Hannah.
Hannah, that was really good. They hit the ground running ever since that Eternal Sunshine movie.
They've been around since even before then, actually.
Yeah. What were some of their earlier things, earlier than Eternal Sunshine?
Earlier, well-known one, Orgasmo.
Oh, next.
1997.
All right, next.
The Pianist, 2002.
That was before Eternal Sunshine?
Yeah, that was 2000. Eternal Sunshine must have been in
2003.
06.
No.
I'll tell you right now. 2004. Okay, 2004.
That was the same year as Shaun of the Dead. Okay,
yeah,
so.
Shaun of the Dead. That's true. Brothers. Rory O'Shea was here. Like, good one. Broken Flowers.
Yeah, that was a good one, too.
The Constant Gardener, Brokeback Mountain, The Ice Harvest. Like, a lot of stuff.
It's good that we're in a day and age where there's so many venues to get content produced that different studios will back different sort of creative projects, where in the past that wasn't the case. Every company was competing to be the big dog, and you had your the studio system days. You had set type of movies: action, mystery, romance, comedy, but it was all basically cut from the same cloth in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
And now you have okay, if something's taking off big on YouTube, I guess they have no choice but now to back it. And in the past, everyone looked at like stoner comedies on Adult Swim and laughed at it. But now look at Fox is competing, Hulu's competing. They all have a little branch of their network dedicated to stuff like that, because they're seeing that people are watching that content whether it's on networks or not. So why not make that?
Yeah, Hollywood is in a big transitional period, to say the least. And I chose a hell of a time to come out here while everything is sort of all bunched up into one big salad bowl. Not only is everything online becoming easily accessible and things are being made easier, but everyone has access to things that they can put something together and throw it on there. And because of Hulu and Amazon and Netflix and all of those different companies, now things that are being greenlit and made that would never have seen the light of day otherwise. So it's a good thing. It's a good thing. It just needs to stabilize. So people can understand how to go about it. Because right now everything's up in the air. So no one really knows which way is up, from actors to producers to directors. Well, I mean directors, I guess you just put them there, let them direct. But as far as everyone that's needed to understand how to put things together and how to be a part of it, it's a very, very interesting transitional period right now. And I still haven't even wrapped my brain around what's happening or what the business is evolving into. And I've spoken to a lot of people that are behind the scenes and, in front of the camera. Nobody really knows what the end game is going to be here, to be honest.
Yeah. I like the fact that things don't have to be as centralized anymore and that movies don't have to all take place. And I know we live here, but I like the fact that the movies do not have to all be Hollywood-centric. It gives you the chance to go out to different places. And look, as an actor, I would rather go to a ranch in Minnesota and get in touch with the people in that area if we're going to shoot a movie out there.
Yeah.
Rather than being around a bunch of Hollywood people on a Hollywood set and then trying to mimic an accent it just, you see what I'm saying?
That's true. But the Hollywood people are going to be there regardless. Wherever.
Oh yeah, no, it's still very much the center of the entertainment industry, but it's good that production also happens elsewhere, and ideas come from elsewhere, and ideas with YouTube could come from anywhere.
Yeah, that's true. And the thing is, Hollywood isn't necessarily the hub. It still is the central hub for production and whatnot, but because of all these tax incentives that are happening around the country, in New York, Louisiana, North Carolina. Actually, North Carolina's tax incentive program is running up this year. So that's kind of good news, I guess, for California. So things can start coming back over here. But a lot of stuff is shot in Louisiana. And now, more so in the last 25 years, things are being shot in New York. I would say a good third of the television programs that are shot are in New York now.
Yeah. Well, there's no reason to shoot on the same New York set of a Hollywood backlot every time instead of, going around and finding interesting places in New York City. I mean, the place is like a giant film set, granted a gritty one.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, there's no reason, and especially in this day and age with super wide shots, high definition, you are not going to trick everyone to believing that, Casablanca is really the Hollywood backlot is really Casablanca. You're gonna have to get your ass over there and shoot over there.
Yeah, but it could still be done. It could still be done. It's the cost. That's why, because of all these permits and whatnot. That's why things for so long were being shot in studios, because getting permits to shoot anywhere was almost impossible. Yeah. Bloomberg has been in charge of things in New York for the last 100 years, it seems like.
Yeah.
So, but he's a businessman. He might, he's not good for people like you and me that are, I would say, middle class, lower middle class, because we're not upper middle class. The distinction between the two is getting wider by the day.
Yeah, you need the khaki dockers to be upper middle class. We have the jeans.
Yeah, the iPhone is just the stepping stone to going to the upper middle class. You need to get on that, Chris.
Once the jeans fall below the underwear, I guess that's lower class.
I know, that's why I don't wear underwear.
And then once the cotton dockers turn into silk, I guess that's upper class.
Oh,
it is really all about how you dress, huh?
Well, maybe that's why I'm not getting anywhere, because I'm in a t-shirt and jeans every day.
Wear some overalls. Those are fun.
Yeah, let me borrow some.
Okay. Hey, so speaking of wrestling, I saw SummerSlam.
Oh, yeah. I saw a few. You showed me a few matches of it. I didn't watch the thing in entirety.
Let me get in. Hold on. Let me pre-vamp this conversation.
It's still real to me, damn it.
Okay, where do we start? WWE, wrestling, all of that stuff. For a long time, many people were disenfranchised with WWF, WE, whatever you want to call them. For about 15 years or so, the product has not been what it was. It hasn't been something different and new, and it has not been what it was. Would you agree?
It's still real to me, damn it.
Okay.
I agree.
So, and even before that time, there was a lot of women who were disenfranchised with that late 90s hardcore, badass sort of era, because they remember the 80s when it was Hulk Hogan and, big, elaborate, colorful characters and emotional moments and good guys and bad guys. So for a long time, many fans of all different sorts have been disenfranchised with wrestling.
Mm-hmm.
But ever since Chris Benoit killed his family, and all these guys started dropping dead from heart attacks and their hearts bursting.
Well, would you mind explaining just quickly what happened with Chris Benoit for anyone that's not familiar with the situation?
Chris Benoit had multiple concussions. His brain was like that of an 80-year-old man, and he killed. No one knows what the real reason is, but he strangled his wife and son and then killed himself.
He lost his mind, I think. There's a bunch of rumors going around and whatnot. He just lost it, man. He lost it. He just flipped it. That's basically what I think happened.
Since that time, Vince McMahon could no longer, there was no denying the fact that something was wrong. These guys were dropping like flies.
Mm-hmm.
So WWE turned their product PG. They instituted a wellness policy, which basically means if you do steroids, you get caught. Like 3 strikes, you're out, sort of thing. Look, let's face it. These guys are on the road. Body image is important, and yeah, it's gonna happen. Drug use, steroid use, all of that stuff. Because as much as it is entertainment, it's also kind of considered a sport. So anyway, I watched SummerSlam. I was with my family in town here, and I said, let's order it. And I can't say I've gone out to see it at places or blast areas or bars that had it, but I don't think I've sat down like with family and watched that since I can't remember when, really. I can't remember a time.
Well, back when we used to watch it when we were younger.
But even when we used to watch it, like some of the stuff there was girls flashing their breasts and everything.
Yeah.
There was a different time. But I watched it and it was really good. It was entertaining. It was the athletics were there. Gone are the days of big men who are steroided up who cannot move. Mm-hmm. You no longer feel like you're supporting some sort of zoo-like product.
Even though it still is, it's just presented a little nicer.
Yeah, for sure. It still is. I mean, those guys are worked past the point of injury, and no one wants to give up their spot because the next person comes right behind them.
That's because there's no union in place.
There's no union, and some people have said if they had a union, things would get better. Other people said wrestlers can't agree on even what to eat, let alone how to make a union.
Well, that's most people. That's why unions, some people consider unions to be the downfall of America, because when there's a union and you are protected, you don't work as hard as you normally would because your spot is protected and you can't get fired.
Right.
So there's an upside and a downside. The union would be put in place for a sports entertainment themed product just solely for the health of these people.
Right.
In my opinion.
They would probably have an even more limited work schedule, which, by the way, their work schedule has been limited since those old days. I believe those guys work about 4 days a week at this point.
They used to work 7 days a week, twice on Sunday.
Yeah. Can you imagine how many matches Ric Flair's had over a 40-year career with that schedule?
I probably can't even count.
That's 10 times a week, 56 weeks a year. Maybe he took a couple weeks off. Let's say he had 500 matches a year times 40.
I probably can't even count, to be honest with you.
That's 5,000 times 4. He's probably had like 20, 25,000 matches. Good God. But
He's
what I
still
saw
alive.
was people who were in good shape and people who were not overly on steroids. And, you know, for those who say that that's not as attractive, what the fuck are you really supporting if you want to see people killing themselves and dying at age 30, 40 based on their hearts exploding?
Well, I wouldn't necessarily say certain people that were taking steroids were all attractive. I mean, I don't think Chris Benoit was attractive. He was in very good shape.
But what I'm saying is this. Right now, they have a guy named Daniel Bryan who is like their new guy. And he's small. He's probably smaller than Chris Benoit was pre-steroids. But Chris Benoit was a great wrestler. So in this day and age, maybe the accident that happened or the situation where he killed his family would not have happened because you're taking a little guy who's there because he's good in the ring, and then you're filling him up with the steroids that the bodybuilder crew took to bring the spotlight in the first place. So it's not someone that maybe would have been naturally taking steroids in the first place. But now, because that's the norm, everyone was dabbling on that.
Yeah. I mean, plus the lifestyles were completely different. Apparently this guy, Daniel Bryan, is a vegan and he's very healthy and all that. And we've all seen Pumping Iron with Arnold, you know, eating this, you know, 5 pounds of red meat, basically raw, and smoking cigarettes and smoking weed. Like, lifestyles are completely different, you know. So I'm sure Chris Benoit wasn't a vegan. You know, he was from Canada. He probably used to kill his own cows.
I don't know if he did that. He was living in Florida at the time.
Well, that's your favorite state.
Yeah, of course. That's what happens down there. Well, Florida is the, even though WWE is based in the Northeast and Connecticut and New York and all that stuff, Florida is kind of like the hub of wrestling in the country. And, you know, that's where the baseball players go down to get the, what's that called, the treatments?
Oh, yeah, the biogenesis, those steroid clinics.
They're all down there. So that's another industry that, you know,
Is there no law in Florida?
Like we're the steroid producers.
I mean, there's swamps, Cuba's right there, Miami is nice, key lime pie came from the Keys, you know. So some good things do come from Florida.
Yeah.
Mickey Mouse.
Mickey Mouse.
Disney's based down there. Well, it's based over here too. I mean, Disney World is in Florida. Disneyland
All right.
is up here, you know.
Yeah, but they're remember back in the day that wrestlers looked like your kind of strong but kind of fat uncle.
Yeah, like my dad.
Yes, wrestlers look like your dad. Wrestlers look like what the Gorons look like in Zelda. They look like, how can we say this?
They're very strong, except they have like big beer and food guts.
Yes.
But they're very, very big and strong.
And then the 80s happened, and Hulk Hogan and all that stuff with the steroid use, and it was how hypocritical that they were saying that it was vitamins that was making him like that, and saying his prayers.
The vitamins can help. I don't know about the prayers.
Most people I know that just take vitamins are not don't look like that.
Yeah, I take vitamins. I'm fucked up. I don't chew them though. I just swallow them.
Well, yeah. So what I saw was totally different. What I saw was bodies that were athletic but healthy. You know, granted, the stuff they're doing is still like very crazy, but also the wrestling has gotten better. It's almost gotten back to the 80s because, you know, in that 90s shocking time, it was very sloppy, the wrestling itself. So the show that they put on was very much about wrestling. It was about entertainment, and they kind of cooled it with all the backstage nonsense. It was good. And look, and for the first time in since Brock Lesnar came and left, what was that, the early 2000s, they have not been able to produce too many new stars. And some could say because they went publicly traded companies. Some could say because McMahon bought out all the competition, so the guys all funneled through a developmental system that was subpar to what the old, you know, guys working in different parts of the country and then getting the job there. And some people were there for the wrong reasons. Some people who wanted to be models and bodybuilders and stuff like that. And McMahon, to his credit, as smart as he was as a promoter of entertainment, he worked himself into a position where he was the king of monopoly. And he killed off all his competition, and there was no reason to really be better because they had some ratings anyway.
Well, if he didn't actually kill them.
It's still real to me, damn it.
Right. Well, what he did was he bought out all of his competition.
Yeah.
So there was no. Yeah, there was not. McMahon pushed wrestling as far as he could go and made it as big as he could. But at this point, something has to change for it to get back to where it was about heels and faces, good guys and bad guys, which I saw at this pay-per-view. And to the credit of Triple H, a lot of people talk smack about him for marrying into to McMahon's family, but I think he's running a lot of the talent-related stuff back there, and I think there's a direct correlation to that. Wrestling is on an upswing now because Triple H is running some things backstage as a boss.
Yeah, but I don't think it's ever going to reach the popularity that it did, because if you think about it, even though it was scripted, it was the first reality television, sort of. It was live, and it was a competition, and there was drama and all that kind of stuff, which is basically what all these reality shows are.
Right.
A lot of them are live. It's competition. There's drama. And they're all scripted, too.
The weirdest thing about it is that they have some people that can act, but then they still do those cheesy, like, wrestling sort of backstage gimmicks once in a while. But then when you see these people on other shows or on reality shows talking, they're actually pretty decent.
Yeah. Well, they have to be in character. A lot of these characters have to be larger than life, and because
right.
they all sort of look cookie cutter and sort of the same, their personalities sometimes have to make up for it, and it just comes off as ingenuine.
Right, and then you can't force wrestlers who are not actors to do sitcom-y sort of material. Wrestling needs to be kept real. I mean, what I mean to say, of course it's, everyone knows that it's predetermined, but there needs to be some draw to it that makes you feel that some little minute part of it is real. Whether you think two people are angry at each other backstage or whether something bad happened for real, then you could spark all the fake stuff off that. For instance, if you're having a match where the moves are, not intended to really hurt the other person, but you start it, within 5 minutes of the match, some big thing that looks sloppy and messy but real happens, like someone gets punched right in the mouth and it looks really good. Now your audience is invested and now they'll get into the story.
Yeah.
And I see, and what you're saying about the cookie cutter is true, and that's what happened over the last 10 years. Now, was it because it was a publicly traded company and they had people in certain... the environment got much more political than it used to be, but really, not many people should know the outcome. It should be secretive, and it should be about a core group of talent that each has their own little path, and you shouldn't be bringing in talent just to throw their talent to the wayside. But, based on what I saw the other night, it was not like that. They have a bunch of new stars that some of them came from the indie scene, some of them wrestled over in Japan. So those are like the two places left where people could go. They had Daniel Bryan, Dolph Ziggler is great, CM Punk. And then they bring in the old guys when they need them, like Brock Lesnar or even like a Triple H or Undertaker or something like this. So I definitely think wrestling's on the upswing. They're back to good guys and bad guys, and the problem existed that people were cheering the bad guys and booing the good guys. And that was the problem with Cena. And to his credit, Cena is a good guy backstage and a workhorse, da-da-da-da-da-da-da. But you have a situation that exists where Cena's there to sell T-shirts to kids, but he's supposed to be the good guy, and you put him in a light where he always does the best Boy Scout thing, but the crowd is booing him. So for a long time, the company was not listening to the fans.
Yeah, people don't want to see cookie cutter things. They want to see crazy things, people getting hurt, and maybe even people dying.
Yeah, that was when Mankind fell off the table, but Mankind's nerves are probably destroyed.
He seems fine. He seems, because he never took steroids or anything like that. He was a very floppy human being, to say the least.
That guy's body was like 90% scar tissue.
Oh yeah, just from his old Japan days fighting with barbed wire.
Yeah, and getting bombs exploded on his face.
Yeah, that's a whole
But even
different.
look, after he fell off the cage, he had to turn into a comedy act because his body could not take it anymore.
Yeah, that was pretty epic. Basically, Mankind had a match with the Undertaker, and the gimmick of the match was called Hell in the Cell, which was basically a 20-foot cage over the ring, and Mankind and the Undertaker started fighting on top of the cage, and at one point, the Undertaker grabbed Mankind and threw him 20 feet onto a announcer's table.
That was,
And
by the way, covered in television monitors.
yeah, covered in television monitors. The Spanish announce table, mind you, not the English.
Never the English.
No, you can't do that.
Yeah, and look, you know, there was a video that came out on the internet of Jim the Anvil Neidhart from the 80s, and he was. Some people said he was high, and some people said it was nerve damage. But you have all these horror stories of these guys who are twitching, or look out of it, or their brain shot. They can't remember anything. They've been drugged up and pilled up and doped up since the point of God knows when. They had to make a change, especially now in this new world where everything's digital and information is rapid. You really can get your ass burned as a company. Look at what's going on with the NCAA. Everything that happens with the NCAA comes out and burns them now. And they're getting burned for years and years of weird practices.
They're a bunch of crooks.
What is it? What's going on with that Johnny Football man?
Oh, apparently Johnny Manziel, who is the reigning Cy Young Award winner, he's a freshman in college, and he won the not Cy Young. What did I say? The Heisman. Excuse me. Wow, Cy Young is baseball for pitchers. He is the reigning He is the reigning Heisman Trophy winner, which is basically given to the best college football player of the year. Yeah. He's a freshman in college, which is unheard of anyone younger than like a junior ever winning that. Right. So he's been under the microscope for the last year or so, maybe 6 months. And you keep in mind he's not even 20 yet. And everyone's watching his every move and expecting him to be an adult and whatnot. But his most recent troubles is he apparently signed a lot of memorabilia, whether it's jerseys and helmets and jock straps or whatever it is, and was paid for it.
So who's mad at him?
Specifically, who's mad at him? Well, it's against the NCAA rules.
Okay.
They have rules. It's against the NCAA rules to profit, for any player to profit off of any sort of football-related activities. So now they make money, but the players can't make money. And now the hubbub about it is, I mean, it's just a backstory. He comes from a very well-off family. Like, they're rich. Like, they're oil people.
Okay.
So that's the thing. He signed a bunch of autographs, and he took money for it, but at the same time, he didn't need it. Now, what if someone else did need it? You know, what if you came from a poor background and you did the same thing and you got the money? Would the reaction be the same? I don't know.
ESPN's making money off the story. The NCAA makes money off of this guy, and this guy can't make $20 to sign an autograph.
As far as I know, that's what the issue is. So his punishment was the first game of the season, which was the other day. He was suspended for the first half of that game.
The media really needs to be careful about what they say and how they say it, because when you create an air, you know, when you keep this guy in the news, you're going to make the other football players jealous, and when you keep telling them that he might be a bad person, then you're going to make those other football players angry. Or maybe not, but guys on other teams will be gunning for him based on this stuff, just like people were gunning for A-Rod. And in football, you know, I know baseball's hard, and if it hits your back, it hurts. But in football, you could have a guy take out your legs, and then his career's over, and then maybe he will need that $20 autograph money to help out with his surgery.
I don't know. But the NCAA are a bunch of crooks. And
Yeah, I guess
it's
all these stories are
discouraging.
coming out about them little by little. And why would you focus on one football player that, as a journalist, as a fucking sports journalist, if that even is a word, or even is a real thing, why would you focus on the player that got a $20 handout for a autograph? And why wouldn't you continue to go after the NCAA and push them to change policy?
They're too
People want
powerful.
to talk about the NFL leaving people crippled and stuff like that, or even WWE leaving people crippled. Those guys pay their talent top dollar. That's the top league per industry, and they pay top dollar. NCAA pays nothing. So why is there a media obsession with NCAA sports in the first place? Seems weird. And how the NCAA is capitalizing off of contracts and television deals is also weird.
Yeah.
And why, as a journalist, would you not attack the big dog and keep going after, regardless if he comes from an oil family or not, why would you go after the little guy in the situation? That doesn't make any sense.
Oh yeah, because the NCAA is too powerful, just like all these big corporations. They're basically a big corporation. Multi-billion-dollar corporation. Like, they're building these stadiums.
Yeah.
These colleges are building these stadiums like state-of-the-art
When you
rooms.
go to a college football game and you're a member of a college, do you have to pay? Is it like a lot of money? Or
I'm not 100% sure because you went to a university. I bounced around from
but the
community
football
college.
program got canceled.
I know, but they did have basketball. We went to a few games. I remember that.
Yeah, it was free.
It was free, right?
Okay.
Now I think there are an allotted amount of tickets that are free for students.
Right.
You know? So I think once that fills up, then they sell the rest. Something like that. I'm pretty sure, you pay tuition or they're going to charge you to see a game too.
The NCAA, man, it's like a borderline scam, and what it sounds like, because you're making a ton of money, but all you have working for you is indentured servants or interns, essentially.
They should get paid.
It's like an athletic internship.
Most of them get free education, which is awesome.
Yeah, that is good. That is good.
Which is on average anywhere from $30,000 to $50,000 a year. Cool.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
That they give. I'm not saying all, but most. But still, they should get paid. So with a work study program.
Yeah.
They should instill something like that where you pay and you play and you pay. You get paid.
Yeah, I guess they don't want someone hustling autographs and while they're technically quote unquote working for that organization.
No, the NCAA's job is to hustle all those autographs.
Right, exactly. Okay.
You know.
Getting back real quick to wrestling, two things. I guess also in the news was that Darren Young of Tag Team Primetime Players came out as gay on TMZ. Did you see that?
I did not.
Yeah, he came out, TMZ went up to him and said, how would you feel if there was a gay wrestler? And he says, actually, I'm gay.
Just like that? He just came out just like that?
Some people are saying it seems a little staged, and some people were saying they feel he just honestly answered the question.
Are they working that angle now in the storyline?
No, this was like a real deal thing.
I guess, yeah, because, a lot of people consider it hidden, but think about it. Like, people like me and you don't walk around in the street, parade around and say, hey, I'm straight, so it would probably be the same thing. So it's not like they're hiding it, but I guess maybe nobody ever asked them, or nobody in the
Wait, you're straight?
It depends. Straight, my sexual orientation is straight. Nothing else about me is, though.
Well, here's what's interesting, though. Darren Young is on a tag team Primetime Players, and his partner is like a big guy. He's like 6'5" to 7 foot range.
Mm-hmm.
Black dude, shaved head, jet black skin. Good look, really good look, good physicality. A little awkward, like big guys could be, right?
Uh-huh.
And then Darren Young is the littler guy. He's kind of like the worker of the group. He looks strangely like Cena. What happened was they were starting to get individual matches, and it seemed like of the two, the other guy, the big guy, was going to be the one getting the push in the future. So he would be the Shawn Michaels, and Darren Young would be the afterthought, the forgotten one.
Marty Jannetty.
The Marty Jannetty guy. So it is kind of an opportune time because coming out like that and getting all the positive attention, because it's not going to be negative attention with the current climate of media, he maybe preserved himself or preserved the team, because I remember a story that came out 2 weeks earlier that said WWE was specifically looking to turn one of their guys into a next black babyface, a good guy. Mm-hmm. And if that was the case, it could have very well been his partner. Okay. So I guess there's a little bit of a, did he do it just because it was a natural thing, or did he see the writing on the wall, know his time was coming to an end in a way, or at least his good status with the company was coming to an end, and did he do this to prolong that a year or more, or get back in the spotlight, or something like that?
I see what you're saying. You never know with Vince McMahon at the helm. You really never know.
Yeah, Vince McMahon could have told him, this guy might not even be gay. Who knows?
It could be.
But I guess, it's just life in the new world, and I guess wrestling, at its best, wrestling is supposed to reflect society, and for a long time it was not. For a long time they were not building stars, they weren't listening to fans, but I was happy to see that things seem to be on an upswing, regardless of whether the ratings are where they once were or what. But, I mean, come on, if you have a kid, and the kid, watches that, maybe you wouldn't, even though it was fun for us to see, like, girls whipping their boobs out when we were 13, maybe you wouldn't want your kid seeing that, Maybe you wouldn't want to possibly offend your grandma who might be walking by while someone's watching that.
That's true.
So it just is what it is. Also, George, I did watch some TV, also related to this. I did watch that Totally Divas reality show. I know we had some arguments about television, but I did want to let you know that I am watching some television.
The argument ends there. You lose.
Why is that?
You lose that argument.
That's a good show. You
absolutely lose that argument.
You said I don't watch TV, and I'm letting you know I watch some TV.
You can never. No, watching TV is your choice. You don't watch any TV other than some garbage trash reality show under your own volition. Now, when I mention television, I talk about the well-produced hour dramas most of the time from quality networks, being HBO, Showtime, AMC, FX. Quality networks that produce, more often than not, quality programming. Now, you watch this on, the E! channel? Possibly Spike TV?
Go on. It's on E!
On E! Okay, my first guess was right. So, when you scowl at me for mentioning television, and in the same breath, well, actually in a different breath, you mentioned that you watch a reality television show and then tell me, like, you can relate because I watch television? I'm sorry, sir. You lose. Okay, well, anyway, listen to what this is about. This shows the girls from WWE backstage. And it's a little bit more of a real, it's got a teen rating. It shows them with their boyfriends and having relationship drama and all that sort of stuff. Ooh, drama. And, It's very interesting. It's very interesting because it is kind of like a carnival showbiz lifestyle, but it's one that you're not used to because it's also a tight-knit family that moves around a lot on the road together. Yeah, yeah. So the conflicts backstage, as reported in the news, have been just as good as and a lot of times better than whatever's written on television. Mm-hmm. So basically, it's just a behind-the-scenes look. Now, is it also scripted? Yes. But it's entertaining. Yeah. All right. I mean, you find that, one person's trash is another man's treasure. That's completely cool with me. I don't judge. All right. So that's it. WWE, they did a good job with SummerSlam. Daniel Bryan fought John Cena. CM Punk fought Brock Lesnar. Both were good. What did you think? You saw those two matches. It was good, but was this guy involved?
Stone Cold E.T. would like a couple of cheeseburgers and maybe a drink, and I'd like to get out here as soon as possible, and that's the bottom line.
Was Stone Cold E.T. there?
Stone Cold E.T. is a guy who dresses like Stone Cold but wears the E.T. mask and acts like Stone Cold Steve Austin. But you
I
know, it's
like
good,
it.
and Stone Cold Steve Austin has a podcast now, and he's come out and he's said what he thought was wrong with wrestling. So it's good that someone with that level of prestige that was liked by that many people is coming out and saying, I want this to be good again. And it's good that a guy like CM Punk, who's a new generation guy, is saying, I'm here, and I want this to be good again, and I know what's wrong. And regardless of... And then you got a guy like Daniel Bryan, who's an ultimate talent. And then you have a guy like Vince McMahon in the fold who takes a guy like Daniel Bryan, who was just a technical wrestler, and gives him a long beard and makes him a funny-looking character. So, you know, in terms of having a nice, well-rounded family entertainment, they're getting back to that. Now, will it be as big as it was? Who knows? But then again, look, the 1950s was a huge time for wrestling. The 1980s was a huge time for wrestling. The 1990s was a huge time for wrestling. So all they have to do is take something old and make something new. So something's got to pop at some time. At least, at least at this point, the creative is not there, not yet, but at least they have the talent. They have the talent to do so, and which is something that they have not had for a long time. And speaking of that, it's still real to me, damn it, Guy. I don't know if you still have that clip there. Not many people want to take their kid to a independent local venue that's full of those guys. That are full of guys saying motherfucker and C-U-N-T word to the women who come out. Not many people want to take their kids there, and that's the reason why there's 20 people in the audience.
I know, because it is staged, but to some people like this guy...
It's still real to me, damn it!
Yeah, you got it queued up at the perfect moment.
It's a little scary.
But yeah, when you go, and I've been there too, and I did some wrestling training out here in L.A., and when you go to some of these venues, some of these fans look a little crooked, man.
I mean,
and I like that. I'm personally entertained by that. But would a mother want to bring her child to that?
No.
9 out of 10 times the answer is no.
No, you also enjoy the carnival atmosphere, which is what these events provide.
Right.
You know?
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah. But sticking on a TV note, CBS and Time Warner Cable are still locked out.
Yeah, they had stars. They were putting stars on it. They changed it to the damn Hallmark Channel.
Lucky you. I have DirecTV, so I have my CBS, I have my Showtime. I have all those. I'm good. If I didn't, there's other ways of getting all that programming for free.
Are you talking about TV again?
So, since August 2nd, there has been a blackout of CBS on Time Warner. So obviously there's still outrage. Now, the U.S. Open is starting in New York.
Oh.
And people aren't going to be able to watch it because it's on CBS. But my thing is, football's starting next week. CBS, NBC, Fox, and ESPN, and NFL Network. Wow, that's a lot of networks. But basically, the three main networks that are on free, quote-unquote, free television are CBS, NBC,
right,
and Fox.
Right. Okay.
Now,
well, and ABC.
No, they don't play football.
Oh, I'm saying. Oh, okay. I thought you were. Okay, go on.
No, just for the. I'm just talking about the ones that show football.
Isn't ESPN owned by ABC?
Yeah, but it's a pay channel.
Okay.
So, I'm predicting now that there will be an agreement within this week for there to be CBS back on Time Warner, because the backlash that they will feel, because most football fans aren't involved. They're not going on message boards and talking shit and on, going on the internet and expressing their grievances, because it's cool, whatever. Most guys don't care about that stuff. Now, once football is starting and the average Joe will be blocked from seeing his football.
Right.
Oh, there is going to be major backlash. A lot of people will be canceling Time Warner if that's the case, even though you could go out and buy a high-definition digital antenna, hook it up to your TV, and get CBS for free. That's not the point. You're paying for this service already. Why should you go out and buy something else so you can watch what should be there in the first place?
Yeah, I mean, well, first of all, kudos to the NFL for having that much of a media infiltration that they're playing on every freaking network, every major network there is.
And they have their own network, too.
And they have their own network. Oh, that is phenomenal. Continue to have phenomenal marketing in that league. A league that only has 16 games at least per team per year.
Mm-hmm.
And it has a very huge off season. So they make so much money there. I don't know. I guess something's going to have to come to a head.
This week.
People are
Something's
get
going
pissed.
to happen. Something's going to happen this week. But in order for that to happen, CBS is asking for a lot of money. Time Warner doesn't want to do that because they're going to make their bill go up. But at the same time, this is not right.
Right.
It's not. It has to change because of football. No other sport in the U.S. or maybe overseas. This would be akin to soccer in Europe and South America and whatnot. It would have the same effect if a channel in Europe or South America decided not to be blocked from their service provider. Oh yeah, people would get burnt down. Here, it's going to be big problems for Time Warner.
But people can still go to their buddy's house, watch it on DirecTV, watch it on the regular TV, or whatever regular TV is considered these days.
Go to the bar and whatnot. Now, how about the bars and restaurants that have Time Warner?
Yeah, the bar's going to have to get an antenna. But those mother fricker. Sorry about this. I'm having technical issues over here.
I can hear that.
Yeah, it's going to be a big issue. And I don't know what's going to happen. I don't think the Oakland Raider fans are going to take this very well.
Well, if they had anything
maybe
to
it'll
cheer
be like the blackout in New York. When the blackout, everyone met their neighbors. Hopefully everyone finds something else to do on Sundays instead of stare at that TV.
No, that's what you got to do on Sundays. I'm going to hopefully not work on Sundays anymore so I can watch some football. But let's see how that pans out because I also need to pay rent.
You're saying you'd watch this Sunday's Sunday Night Football over this Sunday's Totally Divas Live?
I would have to think about it, then think about it some more, then realize that I have not had a lobotomy performed on me and just watch football.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. All right, so there we go. You know what, let's talk real quick before we get out of here about, I know, we're pressing the hour mark. George, let's talk real quick about the texting thing.
Oh, yeah. There was
do you want to get into that, or you want to just end it?
No, we'll talk about that.
Okay, let's give this like a good 10 minutes. Werner Herzog made a documentary that's for free on the internet. You should watch it. It's on YouTube, and it's called it's about texting and texting while driving, and specifically accidents that occur while texting while driving. And it's called From One Second to the Next. And I think AT&T funded it.
AT&T, Verizon, Sprint.
Wow.
All funded it. And
so Metro PCS didn't fund this one, huh?
No, I don't think they could. They couldn't. Herzog tried to contact the people at Metro PCS, but for some reason the signal kept dropping.
Oh man. Yeah.
From One Second to the Next, it's called, and it is bone chilling.
Yeah.
Basically, it takes 3 stories?
There was actually 4, which I want to break down each one, but go ahead.
Okay, 4. Basically about stories from across the country, about people driving, texting, and getting into a serious accident, hitting someone just because they were texting, and having the people, their own lives change, the people that they hit, some of whom died, and their families, all their lives came to an abrupt halt and changed monumentally forever, just because they were driving and texting. And personally, I have to admit, I do that all the time, and I hate myself for it. But these damn things are, excuse my language, are a fucking addiction.
Yeah, I don't think, and that, to the movie's credit, I don't think there is any. I don't think they were taking a moral high ground, and I don't think there is any moral high ground to take because everyone's done this. Most people have done this.
Yeah.
The movie was more about making better choices, and that, we live in a digital age, but there's certain things that we're going to have to figure out how to do more responsibly. Just like people are addicted to Facebook, but not as many will be in 10 years from now. We got to learn how to get over this texting shit. Because if there's an emergency, someone's not texting you. They'll call you.
These days I communicate mainly through text. Like I talk to you, Chris, all the time on the phone because your phone doesn't work properly.
And because I prefer I think a lot. So if I see a text, I interpret it in 3 ways, and I don't know what to think of it. So I'd rather talk to someone and hear a tone of voice.
Oh yeah, that's also an issue. You know how many times I've gotten into arguments with significant others over text just because the tone was misinterpreted?
It happens at work all the time with the email stuff. That's why I would much rather prefer someone to come up to me and say what they have to say.
Well, I agree with you, but that's just not how people communicate anymore.
But,
so via email and text, the tone. Just because you misinterpret something and then you take it the wrong way and then respond based on how you interpreted that message, it's for me personally, because I'm a crazy asshole. It's caused a lot of unnecessary situations in my life.
No, it has. And there are certain times where now I see that in my personal life or even business stuff. I will directly go to the person when I see the sign of that this could turn into something snippy. I either call or when I don't understand something or when I think it's going to turn into some snippy little thing like that, I will call or go approach the person face to face. And it's not meant to be confrontational in a dickish, bully way, but it's meant to say, hey, this is what you said, but I really don't understand. Let's just hash it out, and then come on. There's no reason that you should spend your time at work or on the phone having a conversation over the course of 20 minutes that could take a minute in person.
Yeah, absolutely. And so let's break down these stories.
Okay. The first story was about a little boy named Xavier who we were talking about football, was a big football fan. Athletic kid, got hit when he was crossing the street with his sister. I believe it was his sister. She was holding his hand, and then all of a sudden he got ripped from her hand because someone was texting and driving. And I believe what they were texting was, "I'll be there soon," or something like that.
Yeah.
The mom was really distraught. The kid was chunky now, and he's in a wheelchair. He's paralyzed from the diaphragm down.
Well, we also never saw a picture of the kid before that, so he could have been chunky.
Yeah, that's true. Maybe he would have been an O lineman or something like that.
Yeah,
but
that doesn't make a difference.
Yeah, all indications were that this was an active kid, and now heartbreaking. He was not so active.
Paralyzed from the diaphragm down. He needs to be on constant life support. I mean, he can communicate and talk.
Yeah, he didn't remember much of the accident. I found it interesting that he was a righty, and when he woke up from the coma or whatever he was in, he was a lefty.
That's crazy. That's what his mom said, right? I wonder how that worked. I guess your body realized that I don't have access to this anymore, and automatically, as a defense mechanism, allows you to use the limb that you hadn't used before.
Real quick on this topic, there is a very, very interesting article that has a weird title to it, saying taking out half a kid's brain could be the best option. There was a boy who was having seizures, and they took out half his brain so that he'd stop having seizures. The kid recovered. All the things that were done by one side of the brain are done by the other. I think he might still have his memory. So there's a lot that we don't understand about the brain and how it works. And
there's nothing. We barely understand the brain because it can't regenerate. So that's why people have brain damage and all that stuff. The brain tissue doesn't regenerate. So any sort of exploration has been post-mortem with the brain. So you can't operate on somebody and explore in their brain and maybe nick something that might be 1/100th of a millimeter big, and they might be paralyzed. You can't reverse that. So because there's no regenerative tissue in the brain, we can't explore that and find out exactly what happens when you do certain things to it.
Right. Yeah, well, in this case, they took, and they didn't know what would happen. They took out half the brain because he was having violent seizures. Jesus. He was about 3 or so at the time. He forgot his alphabet. He forgot how to count. Everything was slipping. All of a sudden, the other side of the brain picked up, and now he's in 5th grade, and he's doing good.
Half a brain. I mean, we only use about
I know it's a
4%.
funny joke to say, but...
I mean, I know a lot of people that I don't even think operate on half a brain, so that's definitely a possibility. But what is the actual mathematic number that we only use around 4% of our brain's power? Was it 4 or 15?
I don't know. It's low. It's around 10 or lower, I think.
Yeah, I only use about 0.5.
0.5.
0.5 at most. Sometimes it spikes to a 1.
That's kind of crazy, though. If you're having seizures, they take out half your brain and then everything recovers, and then you stop having seizures. Like, who thought of this? Who figured that out?
Very smart people that we don't understand.
Yeah. Okay, so getting back to it, yes, that was terrible. The mother was very angry. You could tell it's kind of weird for the sister because she had the kid in her care. She was just crossing the street. So no reason to think that all of a sudden the kid would be ripped away.
Yeah.
And, she looks back and like, wow, we were both crossing together and...
That's why always, as you showed, when she was crossing the street, basically, she was closer to the sidewalk and her brother was trailing her.
Right.
Following her, basically. That's why, from a little kid, I don't know, it's just instinctive. I have a paternal instinct, I guess. Whenever I'm crossing the street, whether it be with a child, with a significant other, whoever it may be, I always get in the way of the oncoming traffic. I'll even switch. Always. I make sure they're in front of me.
Right.
If the traffic is coming from behind and vice versa. Always make sure they're on the sidewalk side, not the street side. Always. Just because if something ever like that to happen, because you and I are pretty aware people. We're very aware of our surroundings. So I would notice something like that happening and I would get that out of the way. But if you're trailing, I'm not blaming the sister.
Right. No, not at all. Yeah, of course. No, what you're saying is true. And, that's something we also have to think about. We can't just say, we trust everyone on the road, so you need to be better at not texting and driving. No one should trust fucking anyone on the road. If you're crossing the street, keep your eyes open. I can't stand in LA where we have these crosswalks where you got to stop because the people are crossing the street. Now, I understand that, but the fact is that the people have a weird attitude about, like, put their nose up in the air and walk across the street. Fucker, you better keep looking. You don't know who's drunk. You don't know who's texting. You better keep an eye on whose license plate that is, because if they hit you and run, you better know who it is.
Yeah, those crosswalks are dangerous, man. I try not to cross on those. You know how many times I've had to slam on brakes, especially at night? People just walk. People just walk on those crosswalks. A lot of them don't have any indication of whether or not.
Heads down and stop texting while walking. Let's get into texting and walking.
That's also dangerous.
Remember in Staten Island? Oh, we should pull up that clip one day. There was a girl in Staten Island who fell down the damn manhole. She was walking, she fell in a damn manhole.
Or the one in the mall, she fell into a fountain. She was walking and texting in a mall and literally fell over into the fountain.
This texting and walking is killing our female population.
I know, we need them.
I think that was the thing about the documentary. It was just showing people and how their lives were affected. There was no narrator, there was no, you're wrong, this is wrong, da-da-da-da-da. It was just saying this is the result of, these are some stories that involve accidents while texting and driving. And you know what? This thing was so freaking scary that they should play this at the DMV when you go or wherever you go for your defensive driving course. Because honestly, when I sat down for that, they showed me a video from the 1980s that me and the other people there laughed at the whole freaking time. Because that video said, if you ever fall off a cliff, you should still have your seatbelt on. What situation is that? They should show this movie. It would take the same amount of time. The people would not be bored. It would, it's you're afraid or you're seeing the other people's emotions and you're identifying with them, but it's not boring. This was not by any means boring.
No, it was bone chilling. Absolutely bone chilling. It brought a tear to my eyes.
And the sad thing is it makes killers. This situation makes killers out of people who are decent people for all other things. It's just that they made a mistake in the moment, and now they're branded killer, or now they feel like a killer, and they're very disturbed because, if I'm a killer and I kill someone, I'm not going to give a crap. But if I'm a regular person and then by mistake, by a stupid 1-second mistake, I killed someone, damn, I'm going to carry that with me.
Of course.
So you don't want to be on any side of it. You don't want your kids to be killed. You don't want to be killed. You don't want to be the killer. And then there's also people who, and we'll get into the last story when we get into all the stories, that you could be affected incidentally because you're another car on the road.
Yeah.
Besides just the person that got hit or the hitter.
Personally,
the texter.
I don't know how I'd be able to live with myself with something like that. I'm a little bit I have an issue of letting things go. So if something like that were to happen and I cause somebody to lose their life or potentially be paralyzed forever, that would ruin me. That would absolutely ruin me. So next time I text, well, I'm also stupid, so I'm probably going to text as soon as I get in the car after we're done here. But next, I'm going to think twice. The text can wait.
Yeah, and there are deeper emotions on earth than LOL.
Yeah.
And what I mean to say is that you could be texting LOL and hit somebody, and now their kid is dead, and now that affects their whole family.
Mm-hmm.
And LOL is not even a genuine emotion.
No
one who says LOL is laughing out loud, because guess what? If you were laughing out loud, you wouldn't be looking at the screen.
I know. I never use that term. Never ever use that term. It disgusts me. If I'm talking to someone and they say LOL, I kind of don't want to speak to them anymore.
The point is there's more people than, and I guess what this is trying to make, there's more people than just you on Earth. And we could harken that back to we know about that in L.A. where everyone thinks they're the only person on Earth. Not everyone, but there's certain individuals here.
Most.
There are more people than you on Earth, and I guess that was the message of the film. Even though everything is this me generation, social media, and your personal profile and your personal cell phone, we need to remember that this is all momentary, this is all new, and we need to get back to remembering that there's other people whose lives are just as valid as ours, and da-da-da-da-da. And with that, let's get into the stories. All right, so we talked about Xavier. I'm sorry, George. You said it was bone chilling, and I think I had cut you off. Was there anything else?
No.
Okay. Story number 2. The guy's name was Chandler. He killed 3 Amish people and hurt their horse.
Yeah.
He was driving around, and he was driving a big van, like a big GMC sort of van.
Like a delivery van.
Yeah, and he was going to work, and he was texting "I love you." He was not speeding. The person that hit Xavier was speeding. This person was not speeding. So all they did wrong really was text. They were going to work. They were texting "I love you." They were not speeding, but they were texting. And they hit a horse and buggy and killed 2 children who were aged 3 and 5, and a third person in the Amish community that hurt the horse. And he was also driving into the sunrise, so it was a little blinding in the first place.
Mm-hmm.
What I found fascinating was that the Amish father forgave him.
Yeah, that's...
He wrote a letter saying, "God bless you, God bless you and your kids, I hope everything's alright." And he really, in the theme of realizing you're not the only person on Earth, this man was so good of this man whose children had just been taken to send a letter to the person saying, "I want to know how you're doing, are you okay?" That would be hard for anyone to do, because a lot of the people in this documentary had hateful emotions. How could you not?
Of course. I can't imagine if that would happen to someone in my family.
The guy was ripped up. He was distraught. And he thinks about it all the time. And, if you can't move, or you just like the place you live, I guess you live in that same place and pass that area all the time.
Yeah. What were the other stories?
Okay, we have Debbie, who she was about 45-year-old woman, lost her memory, she had messed up speech, she was a go-getter, worked 60 hours a week, worked overseas, she was walking her dog, big old black lab, and she got hit. Dog got thrown across the street, she was hit, lay there dying, or the dog was dying, her memory is messed up, and now she, who had been so self-sufficient, was being taken care of by her family. And it was hard on everyone. Her medical bills came out to $1 million, and the insurance company of the teenage girl who hit her only paid $50,000.
And her medical bills have totaled to over $1 million.
Yeah.
There was liability insurance on the person's car, and only got $50,000 from it.
Yeah.
She was destroyed. She was a shell of the person that she used to be. She can barely talk. I mean, she could talk and communicate with you, but as far as having an in-depth conversation at this point, because of how she's become because of the accident.
Yeah.
And the result of the accident, then no, man, it's done. She's finished.
And how crazy is it that you could take out half of someone's brain and they recover, and then another brain damage with memory loss, and that never recovers.
Yeah, that's why the human brain is crazy.
I know. And then what else about her? I'm trying to think. She wasn't necessarily a sad person. She just seemed very simple now, and she loved animals before, and she was taking care of the birds afterwards. But in terms of personal care, the family, it put a major strain on the family, who had to cater to someone who was not a vegetable, but in a lot of ways not there.
No.
And had no memory of the accident or anything like that, thank God.
Throughout the interview, all this was going on. She was sitting next to her sister, or right. Sister-in-law, was it? Was it her sister or sister-in-law?
Something like that.
Either way, there was no... She spoke a handful of times, but there was absolutely no emotion there. It was a complete deadpan stare right at the camera throughout the entire conversation of her being hit, all the stuff she's had to go through, all the therapy, how her life has changed. Zero emotion being emoted because it's just not there anymore.
Or that it cannot be shown anymore. Because her brother-in-law or whoever did say that when they were in the hospital talking to her that she squeezed their hand, although she didn't react to them.
That's also a possibility.
And that's, for such an outgoing person to now have, for someone who was outgoing to now have essentially like an autism effect where they have certain things inside of them that they cannot get out. That's pretty depressing.
Yeah, insane.
Okay, story number 4, as if everyone's not sad enough right now. Okay, I don't have everyone's names here. It was kind of a messy situation. It wasn't as clear-cut as the other ones. What happened was there was 2 cars driving down the road.
Opposite directions.
Opposite directions. The texter brushed. All they did was brush together. 2 cars got too close and brushed together. So the person who was texting, their car was fine, and they drove on. The person who got brushed, their car started spinning. There was 2 men in there. Older men, maybe 50 years old or so. Their car started spinning. Now there was a truck, like a pickup truck, driving down the road, completely not part of the texting, not part of the brush, that knew, oh man, I'm going to hit these people. Hits the car right from the side, completely totals the car, crushes the car. It looked like it got bent in half.
Yeah.
And now you have someone else who was the killer. It's not the who the manslaughter happened on their vehicle, even though they weren't the ones who brushed the car. So that's kind of interesting. The person who hit the people and killed them essentially, or however you want to define kill.
The person who caused the accident was.
The person who caused the accident could not remember what text he was sending. He seemed like a decent person who was thoughtful in general about life. He said in life, he was told society is all about giving back more than you take in. But he felt at this point he could not, no matter what good things he did. He even said, how could my little text be more important than those people's families? That was completely selfish. And I wish that wouldn't have happened. He was terribly distraught. They showed him 7 years after the accident, crying roadside, crying by the accident scene. The person who smashed into the people that essentially ended their life, who was not necessarily at any fault. He was a cowboy, and he was saying he don't even realize why people want to talk to each other at all in any form in the first place because he was such a.
It sounds like you, Chris. Yeah, throughout his entire interview, he was standing there with his horse.
Yeah, but he was a person who puts horseshoes on for a living, and he said he can't do that anymore. He has herniated discs from the accident, so even he got screwed up.
And his knees were messed up because of it.
His mind wasn't that bad because he didn't have the guilt factor because he said, "Look, I saw what happened and I knew there was no way I could stop. It was just a bad situation."
Yeah.
But his body was damaged because of it. And the victim of the situation, I guess, was the families because both men were killed, I guess, pretty instantly in the car that got smashed.
Mm-hmm.
Now, they did show a girl named Megan who was the daughter of one of the men in the car, and she was very distraught. She talked about how she hated Reggie, who was the texter. She talked about how at the trial she wanted him to be the one who was dead instead of her father. She was very close with her father. They had kind of some observatory on their property where they'd look up in a telescope at the stars. So they had a very close relationship. She said she still gets night terrors that she was the person texting, that she was the person hitting the car, and that she was in the car. But the one, I guess, nice thing that came out of it was that, not only did she forgive him eventually, like the Amish father, but she said, I think my father really wanted me to forgive this person, and I understand the situation. They even showed them together, and she was hugging the guy in front of the observatory. So,
yeah,
who knows what that relationship is really like, but it was good that she was able to forgive, and it was good for the guy too to know that after 7 years the family did not hate him. And one of the last images they showed before they recapped all the stories was them hugging and looking out at the at the observatory, the telescope together.
Yeah, 7 years had passed though, so I'm sure there was a lot of counseling and whatnot involved.
It was. Man, I don't mean to depress everyone out there, but really, it's worth being depressed for a half hour. Watch this. It was about a half hour, 40 minutes. It's called, once again, it's called From One Second to the Next. It's by Werner Herzog. It was funded by all the companies. Because look, I mean, these guys, they made a lot of money in the cell phone business, but no one wants to see anyone killed. And we got as a society get a little over this texting stuff. And you shouldn't be texting in that car anymore. I've done it too. I gotta say I've done it too. Sometimes even just peek. I don't answer, but I peek at it. But even that split second, think of how many accidents you've avoided in your life, and
because I was watching.
Because you were watching.
I know.
And then how many times you avoid it by a split second, So everything can change in an instant. These are, even though they're a big part of our society, these cars are 2,000-pound deathmobiles that are zooming past us.
That's true. We're driving lethal weapons.
Yeah. And not many people realize it just because it's in front of us every day.
I know. It's crazy. Just don't text while driving, please. And I'm gonna try to limit it as much as I could, but I'm also an addict.
And I'm gonna call Brian to make sure he was not texting or a victim of it. Nah, that's a terrible joke.
Yeah, he's the perpetrator, not the victim.
You're throwing the book at him before you even know if there's a story or not.
I'll throw 2 books at him.
All right. Well, thank you. Thank you, everyone, for listening to the show. We will see you next time, right?
Yeah. Take it easy, guys.
You've been listening to Shooting the Ish.